have a really exciting presentation prepared for you today, of course, about all things DAM. And at Vertesia, we are an AI platform. So not only will we be getting into all things DAM, we'll get into all things DAM and AI. So to kick us off, we're going to talk a little bit about conventional DAM. Where does that fit in today's world? We'll go into the content supply chain. If you're thinking about integrating AI in your DAM, and most of us are, where can we actually start? And then we'll end with kind of a large, philosophical question and maybe debate on what is the future of DAM? What does tomorrow look like? So when you think of DAM, and you're thinking of probably the more traditional DAM that we're all used to, we know that there are some significant and have been significant challenges. Manual metadata comes to mind, poor search experience or poor results from search. Today, of course, many DAM solutions are adding in AI capabilities. Some are fairly limited. They might be only focused on one or two use cases. And a lot of customers report that, they are seeing a lack of innovation with their DAM, and many DAM customers are thinking of making a change. So, Stuart, when you think of traditional DAM and DAM challenges, what kind of resonates with you? And then what does that mean, for today and where the DAM might sit today in the ecosystem?
Yes, Mary, that's just looking at this slide here. I think everybody on this call will have come up with exactly the same thing over the last 10, 20 years, right? We're always talking about manual metadata. We're always talking about poor search. We're always talking about our users not liking the interface of our DAMs. And why shouldn't DAM be challenged at the moment when every other thing in the current world is? So it's no different that AI shouldn't be impacting what we're doing and what we're working on. But at the same time, it's a daunting thing, right? Limited AI add-ons within your DAM is the first thing that kind of springs to mind for me at the moment, because you don't necessarily have control on what that offering is, and it may not be fit for purpose for your business. And that obviously leads to the final one there, right, which is lack of innovation. Everybody's screaming for AI. I'm sure people on this call will have had leadership come to them, team members come to them and go, what are we doing in AI? Does your DAM do anything in AI? And we don't have the answer to those questions at the moment. So we're all scrambling around going, what can we do? But if you look at all four of those top two, manual metadata and poor search, well, AI can fix this piece.
Yeah, these are really interesting points here, right? However, let's break the problem down a little bit, because it's not just the manual metadata, it's also the proliferation of metadata these days, right? We have come from a world where we had pretty much like a fixed schema that you would deploy, and it would be based on your business needs. And then you try to make people fill out forms, or maybe you had some good systems with project management integration that would kind of pre-fill forms, but still it's a manual management of all of the metadata. And in our conversation today, we want to challenge that a little bit. So where's that really going? Can we still manage all of that manually? Right, and it's not just the ingest process. It's down the road as your DAM becomes the centerpiece in your ecosystem. How can agentic processes help you with managing that metadata? The poor search is really a result of that so far people had to use keywords, right? And Google always tried to make people understand, like, hey, when you use Google, don't just look for one or two words. Actually, ask me a question. And this is sort of where search is going, where we see. And a traditional DAM wouldn't do that. It would do maybe a full text search. It might be indexing inside documents, so you have a broader context of words to search. But it will always be a match, right? And now we have with Agentic, and Mary and I gave webinars and information about that before. Now we have new methodologies where you can have a conversational search, an agentic search, a hybrid search, something that understands the meaning and it understands the semantics of your content. And that's not just based on the metadata that might be on your forms. That's speaking to the content itself. So
Yes,
Stuart,
definitely.
how do you feel that is going to go for your use cases?
Well, the point you just made there, Steph, kind of hits it, that is the nail on the head, really. I think we should be looking at our DAM users. We always look at our DAM users as customers, right? But I think we should also be looking, what are they doing in their day-to-day world, right? The way that we shop now is different. The way that we search and ask questions is different. Most people are now using ChatGPT, or Google in a different way to how they would have used it before. And you get that chunk of information that gives you the answer to the question that you've asked, rather than having to scroll through and find it. And we need to think of our DAMs like that, right? Because our users are evolving. They're finding the answers to their problems quick. They need to be able to do that in our DAM. Otherwise, we're going to lose them as customers.
Let me ask you another cheeky question on that one. Are they really doing it in their DAM? Because so far, the DAM adoption, and let's be honest, everyone here, right? Are people really using the DAM UI? How far have you come with building custom user interfaces now in the world that we're in, like API first? Most DAMs have that, headless. Have you built custom UIs to make your creative community more adopting what you have built? Is that really where it's going? And then when you see where all of these conversational new ways of dealing with agents that perform certain tasks for me, is DAM really still the place where this is about to happen, right? Or is your DAM becoming a key player in an ecosystem that is tapping into the objects that you have in the DAM? But we're going to see in the course of our conversation, I guess, how we get there.
Well, we're always battling that, aren't we? We're always, the unique user experience within your DAM is a really difficult thing to deliver. And I always think of it as, how would I rate the success of the DAM that I'm running? And it would always be, will the user find the asset quick enough that they won't send me an email to find that asset for them? And I think that's our first starting point with AI enrichment of our DAMs.
Yeah, I know when we were preparing for this webinar, we were talking a lot, Stuart, about the content supply chain in general, and how, since we have to bring AI into the conversation, how that's making you and your team rethink that content supply chain.
Absolutely. So moving on from talking about conventional DAM, we have to evolve now. I don't think we can see that ROI from having a DAM that just houses, assets, a place for assets to live, right? It needs to be more than that. And we need to reframe this, and put DAM at the center of this content supply chain. And this way, I think we're going to bring more people into this. We're going to we're going to improve the places we work. We're going to improve our workflows. If we use the DAM to power that content supply chain, assets coming in from wherever they're coming in from, metadata being enriched from the data that we might have sitting outside of the DAM. We don't want people sitting there having to fill in field after field of metadata. Why can't that be automated by AI? Bring all of that information and data in to take that lift away from the asset managers. And then more controlling your own content more, how we can publish out of the DAM. In marketing and advertising world, it would be, how could we traffic out the DAM? How can we push assets into social media platforms, to TV, to print? And then you're building something that you can actually go back to your leadership team and say, we have a pipeline here. This is a delivery pipeline for our assets and our work, and we control our content.
It's when you're looking at the original promise of the DAM was value driven, right? We're going to store our final deliverables in there, and then so that people can search and resurface things and identify things they've been doing before. But reality is, most dams are, let's call it, asset graveyards, right? They're at the very end of that chain, and they are poorly, if at all, integrated into anything that's happening before. I personally believe that the first manifestation of the asset is where you have the idea, right? But and then again, it doesn't end. That life cycle doesn't end once it has been delivered out. I think this is when we now consider supply chain of it needs to go back again to the beginning. It's not just a chain that ends. It's a circular process, right? Where we're ideating things, we are creating the content, we're ingesting it into the AI, into the dam, and then we are repurposing that really. And this is where agentic AI now really comes in to totally change the paradigm how things are working, because now we can resurface things in a totally different way. And it's not just like keyword and text-based and terms that you're looking for and making people work in an interface that is the damn UI in order to find things. We now have a whole new world of ways that we can integrate that existing content back into the supply chain at earlier stages in order to generate new.
Exactly. We talk about asset life cycle all the time, and I've been here before over the years of 15, 20 years in DAM. What is that asset life cycle? Because a lot of the time I just see it as an asset coming in and going into a DAM, and that's where it lives. Your users can obviously search and share it. But when we think about content supply chain, we almost need to go beyond what I've, just the delivery of those assets to where they come from, the landing of those assets, the enrichment of those assets, the delivery of the assets. And then we need to look into the next stage of where we measure those assets and we bring that data back in. What's the rights management around those assets we host? How do we bring that into the DAM? And then we go back to that conversational search function where we can ask our DAM questions. What was the best performing content in here? And it will bring you back an answer. It will say, this was your best performing 6-second advert on Meta. I mean, just imagine how powerful that would be for the users. And that's where you get the buy-in, I think, from your team. You're meeting them halfway. You're giving them something. You're helping their day-to-day. It's not just coming into another tool, finding something, downloading it, often sharing it outside of your DAM, which is one of my biggest frustrations in managing DAMs over the years, is when you have someone download an asset from your DAM and then share it out through another tool. I mean, it's complete madness, right? We need to think of DAM as powering our user to do a lot of their work in the DAM, right?
Yeah, I like the way you put that with the now we take the measurements, the KPIs, how well did it perform, and we bring that back onto the asset, and that allows us now not only to see how well it performed, but now we can also start understanding with agentic analysis what are the elements that made it perform, right? Is there an element in the picture? Is there an element in this video? Is it in a cultural context that now we have additional information about that we can correlate, and that agentic AI can help us to identify? Just think about the possibilities of providing new solutions that are coming out of your DAM from these processes that before would have taken a horde of people just to do all the social media analysis and then trying to map that back onto a certain campaign asset and so on. So the possibilities are really amazing of what we will be able to do now.
It's being able to action as well, that those insights that come back. A lot of that lift is heavy. How quickly can you get? This is where AI can enable you to bring and do that search, I guess, and then bring that asset in so that you can have actionable strategy and insights off the back of it. And my kind of dream space for that would be, can we impact the next campaign with the information we have from the previous one? Because it's hard to do that in a fast-paced industry like this, where you just move from project to project to project. How do you bring that analysis back so you can make an impact and improve? We have wash-ups every time, right? But what do we action out of those wash-ups? Yeah. If we can actually pull that back and enrich that so that we can make a difference on future work, then that is a benchmark for real success.
I would always think, and correct me if I'm wrong, Stuart, but supply chain is not adequate anymore. It's a supply cycle.
Yeah, it's an ecosystem. I don't know which one works better, but you're right, Steph.
Yeah, well, it certainly sounds like that would not be in a graveyard where assets are going to die, right? They'd actually be living and breathing and impacting, like you said, future campaign and future assets. So
Yeah.
I think a lot of people are thinking, okay, this sounds amazing, but like, where do we start? How can we get started, right? And there's multiple options. If you have a dam solution today, I can almost guarantee you that they're going to have AI functionality. And there are a lot of good things about that. There's a lot of ways you can get started with implementing AI. We're Vertesia, we're an AI platform. I work in marketing. I'm still not going to sit here and tell you that if you implement Vertesia will solve all your problems, because I don't want to lie to you. Because there's a lot of things to think about. And the number one thing to think about is, what are you wanting to solve, right? A lot of people think, oh, you just plug in AI and it will solve all your problems. But it won't, because you need to take a step back and really think about what you're trying to solve. So if I could put a few ideas in front of you as you're thinking about integrating AI. If you want to integrate your DAM Solutions AI into your workflows, think about, again, the problems you're trying to solve and if that is going to be sufficient, right? If your DAM solution is targeting specific use cases, if it's limited inside of your DAM and not extending across the full ecosystem for your assets, if you're potentially locked into certain models, right? When we talk about models, we're talking about large language models, LLMs, and there are many on the market today. And they're all great at different things. And Steph can really tell us a little bit more about that. But so the model that you choose and the path you go in terms of that, you don't necessarily want to be locked into one model or one provider, because that market is changing rapidly. Models that come out today, they might be retired within 12 to 18 months. So just the pace of change is, in technology, is something that, you know, we haven't quite seen, is this pace of change. So think about that. Ask your DAM provider those kind of questions. What is their roadmap? Does it extend past the DAM? And likewise, when you think about what you really need to solve, the advantages of an AI platform that's plugged into your DAM are that you can be model agnostic, so you can use all the models on the market based on what you need. It's not just limited to your DAM, it extends to that full content ecosystem. And Steph, you do a really good job explaining this. You have the ability to actually create agentic workflows that are working for you, right?
That's true. And let me actually say that when I joined Vertesia, I was also thinking like, hey, but what would be possible? But just like, I think the key point is we need to demystify AI a little bit, right? Really understand, what does this tool do for me and how can I apply it? And many people just look at the life cycle of dams overall. Every 3 to 5 years, you will be taking your existing dam, look at how successful it was. And many of these points we already talked about probably led you to believe that I need a new one, right? I need to move forward. However, your current vendor will already be working on solutions to integrate AI, and that's great, right? What I'm saying is, you don't necessarily need to rescale your dam. Your dam might be already perfectly suited in order to do AI. You don't need to do all the transition and migration over, which again comes with a number of things you need to do, like harmonizing your taxonomies, reconciling your schemas. Maybe you have an organizational reorganization trying to migrate from a number of dams, migrating into one new one, and that's all fine. But look at what is it really that you're trying to do. And as Mary said, a dam vendor will of course have their very own product roadmap, which is great, which is important, which will help you to take the first step in order to take, for example, like start enriching your metadata, right? Start going into a direction where you can maybe harmonize your file conventions, the filing conventions. But then when you're thinking ahead, like this vendor will have a specific approach and how the product roadmap goes on. But in the end, this is about you. This is not about having the latest and greatest technology. This is about reflecting back, what do I need? What do I want to do with this, right? And from that point of view, you want to be able to control the path forward, especially in a fast-moving world. You don't want to lock yourself in. That's why you're changing technology every 3 to 5 years, because you think, oh, something supersedes this. Now I'm going to replace it with something better and new, and you start the whole process again, right? So I think what AI allows us to do is to sort of challenge that life cycle of technology replacements, because many technologies these days, as I said, they're headless. They're already API first. They scale to millions, billions of objects, depending on what you need to do, right? They have super fast indexing, and they will have all of the core functionality already. So really, where a platform now that is detached from your DAM and that is more part of your business process makes a lot of sense, because it is model agnostic. First of all, it allows you to quickly change or use a whole orchestration of different models in order to do operations from within your DAM or within your object store. Just hinting a little bit where I think this might be going. It is also that you suddenly start to understand, oh, now my DAM has a way broader application. It could be used across finance, creative, production, but also other departments that might be having a need for a document management, which beforehand would have been done by traditional file server, right? Now you can solve problems in another way by just seeing how a platform AI can be integrated across these systems. DAM is still important, but it's one of the key players of the ecosystem. But not everything needs to happen inside the DAM, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's these scaling factors, and then agentic workflows, and this is really where at Vertesia we are making this more and more happen as we're working across more and more use cases with our clients, is that these agents will be helping us to manage the proliferation of content. And this is where just a standard AI implementation that helps you with managing metadata is only taking you as far. It is really the agentic workflows that help you to combine all the different threads that you need to sort of stitch together to make an orchestration across your enterprise ecosystem work.
Yeah. Stuart, did you have anything to add on this topic?
A few things. I think everything you said there is spot on. If you're looking for where to start, I guess you put your current DAM to the test, right? You've made that investment. They will have an AI roadmap. See what's on it. But I think also what's really important is my experience certainly over the last year or two has been really you need to understand your workflows, like get in them, get on the ground, get in with the team, understand what your workflows and pipeline look like, and clean up your data sources. I think we always hear that, and I know it's the one thing probably nobody wants to hear because it's the tough bit. But thinking about, you have to have, well, maybe it's just know where your data sources are, because AI can do a lot of that cleaning up for you now. But often one of the problems is, how do I access that data? How do I get what I need into the DAM? I think we probably also, as like a digital asset manager myself, and this is always as difficult for me as I assume it will be for a lot of people on this call, is kind of letting go of that more conventional process of asset management, right? And it's really hard to let other people touch your metadata, right? Nobody wants that, because people are going to mess with it. They're not going to put capitals in. They're not going to free text. They'll have spelling mistakes, all the kind of stuff that gives us asset managers nightmares. But I think we really have to let go of that and think about how that piece is automated more, so that we can start thinking about the DAM as more than just that archive repository, and almost becoming, I think our roles will evolve into that kind of more of a solutions architect kind of role, as gatekeepers to data and content. I think we're in a great position to do that. There's a question come into the chat, which I think we can probably tackle now if you want, Steph. I might let you.
Oh, yeah. That looks great.
What agentic AI workflows, it's from Lewis, what agentic AI workflows are you seeing the most return of investment in current DAM, and what do you see being the most profitable use of agentic AI in the future?
Mm-hmm.
Great question.
That is a good question. So, I mean, we cannot tell you all the use cases we're working on right now. So there's of course a certain component of, but I think in general it's about metadata enrichment for sure, right? In order to support ongoing migrations. That's where AI can do a tremendous job of reconciling schemas and taxonomies, harmonizing things. Use cases from the wild are, of course, around content analysis, right? Going back into existing content and being able to transpose that into other cultural contexts, for example. Reanalyzing existing content and really, it is sort of driving the value from within. This is how I would describe many of the use cases we're working on, is how we really find and again, speaking about the asset graveyard, how are we repurposing existing content and then bringing that into a new value, right? So it's kind of value from within. That's the return on investment, I would say, because you're suddenly discovering that you have so many pearls and so many diamonds already in your dam that have just never seen the light of day again, and that can be reused once you start understanding the contextual relevance and how to reapply them in different aspects of your business process. So, and this is really where you need to be honest to yourself and identify how you can repurpose things. Be creative about it. It's not just looking, for example, at an ad campaign and thinking about like, oh, can we use this slogan again, or can we repurpose an entire video of that? Look at I'm talking about analysis, do a video analysis, start understanding what are the elements of that, what are the components of that. Did we meet the right audience with this? Maybe you've been showing something in another cultural context. And again, Mary and I had another webinar where we talk about agentic creative ideation, agentic ideation, right? Where agents help you to hit all these legal benchmarks to make sure that you have the right tonality, that you are addressing things in the right way to save your creative people precious time. Creative ideation is a huge part. Yeah, so these are just some examples where we are seeing that some of our clients are very interested in.
Yeah, I'd look at it I'd look at it in two ways, right? So you've got your current processes, right? And everybody's looking at how AI can solve those or reduce them or do those processes for you. Like, I'm starting to think more about like, what can't we currently do? What don't we have time for? And what can we unlock? And can AI do that for us? So things that the success that we've had, and also you've got to say, like, it's early days, right? We're still at very early stages of this. The return of investment will come at some point. I think it's hard to kind of quantify what that is at the moment. But think of things that you wouldn't have been able to do before, huge data sets that you can now run through AI models and take insights from, tasks that would have been very manual for your team to go through, work out data, write a report on it, many of which people won't even read. But how do you pull that together and have actionable insights of it? Almost bite-sized pieces around performance, particularly in marketing. I can see that it going that way. How do you get that information where you can actually action something off it? Because I feel like there's so much of that is lost in process at the moment. What we want to get down, we want to strip it down to the basics, really. This will help us do better in this. And that's where I see future ROI coming from.
I think that's great. And I think a lot of our customers, they contract with Vertesia, they begin implementing use cases with AI, DAM, and elsewhere. And then it's like, once you start scratching the surface, you do start realizing, oh, like we can do things that we never even thought were possible. So in all the marketing speak and the language and the hype around AI and generative AI, and everyone talks about transformation, that's kind of that transformative potential, is what you didn't even think could be possible because of volume or scale or XYZ. It is becoming possible with agentic AI. So a lot of people are probably like thinking, okay, so where do I start? Where's a good first step, second, third, fourth step? It's going to be different for every organization, but would love to know from the both of you, what are some good, if you're ready to jump in the water or just dip your toe in, to get started with AI and AI implementation in your DAM and in your creative assets.
You want to go, Steph?
Or take it away.
Okay. So yeah, like I said before, I think it's really early days, and this stuff is pretty overwhelming, right? There's business pressure. I'm sure everybody's feeling it to deliver AI initiatives, and everybody's at their own stage with AI, right? You're going to have people that have not really touched it at all, to people that are using ChatGPT, to people that are creating content, building their own agents, all the way up. But Steph made a really good point earlier about demystifying AI. I think that's what we need to do for our teams, like make it a less scary prospect. Like what we never see or what I never see in a lot of these kind of seminars, webinars, or presentations you do is when you get to see the workings. Like you can have something and go, we've got this tool and it's so good, it can do this, this, and this, and it outputs this, and it's going to save you so much time. But you still don't know where to start, and you still don't know what's going on in the background. So I think we just need to break it down. It's like, I would say from a very, very basic, pick a tool, like just pick something to use. If it's ChatGPT, it's ChatGPT. If it's Claude, if it's Perplexity, just get in it and play around with it. And I think that is how you get to the next stage. Everybody kind of needs their own AI training plan, right, Steph? That's what we were talking about the other day.
Yeah, that's true. But also getting into the next stage, this is where 80% actually stop, right? Because people start playing around in the GPT or Gemini or Bedrock. And that's great because it allows you as an individual to do things. But how do you scale this up now in a secure and in a manner that you can actually go into production, right? Not doing ads for ourselves here, but this is our core business of providing a platform that allows you to prototype and then quickly go into production. I think that's a key thing. And also breaking things down, you would be astounded how simple AI in the background really is, right? Once we start breaking a process into smaller chunkable pieces, and Stuart has seen this when we are working with you in a workshop, we enable you. We're not there to build everything for you. It is about enabling you to become the smith of your own fortune in a way. And once you have adopted that sort of thinking, that sort of philosophy, how you're breaking things, your complex processes down into smaller pieces and have individual, sometimes agents, sometimes what we call interactions with specific tools, solve sub-tasks within a problem, and then reassemble that in the end, you'll be amazed how simple that really is under the hood. However, Stuart, as you say, you're perfectly right. You start working on an individual basis with a GPT or a Gemini, and then once you're ready, you start thinking, okay, how can I find a platform that allows me to do that for my team, that allows me to easily integrate with my SharePoint, to easily integrate with a number of systems that I might have. And I think what's also important is play. You need to play, jump into the sandbox, right? You have so many things that you can experiment with. And yeah, everyone needs to find out for themselves as an organization how to start this. And as people who are working in the DAM space, make yourself knowledgeable, include yourself into the conversations which are happening. This is not an IT topic. This is also not a mere CEO and account management topic. This pertains to every single part of the company. So the visioneering is really important where you guys want to take this.
Yeah, and the entry, the entry level is low. Like it can be intimidating to think of it maybe in a workplace, but I would almost say think about the things that you're doing in your personal life using AI agents, right? And then just translate that into your workplace. Like it's kind of fundamentally the same thing. In marketing, we might need to run cultural consideration checks. Like that's a perfect use case for an agent to do. Throw it a prompt. I'm a senior, we could say you're a senior copywriter, for example, across all of Europe locales. Ask it a question and it will give you it back. It will give you back that output and then use that output, as a foundational start to what you're working on. And there you've got yourself an AI use case there. It doesn't take away the necessity you'll have for a human to come in and do a lot of that lift as well. But that's the starting block for you to do it. And I think that's once you start unlocking those little like personal projects and successes, then it opens your mind to like, oh, well, actually, I could do this in my DAM. Like, why are we not pulling back insights from something and matching them to an asset that sits in the DAM? And I think that's where it will make you think big about what AI can do in the DAM space. But it's early days, and my advice would be just jump into it and play with as much as you can. You can't break those tools, right? It's just output.
Once you see how simple it is and how you can apply it, you will also start understanding like, where's my role going, right? How does my role evolve into something new? And Stuart, I love what you said before. You become a solution provider, right? You're not within the organization. Suddenly you have a whole new positioning that you can become an expert in, right? In order to make these things available to your audience, basically.
Exactly, and we don't want to forget about archive preservation. At the heart of all this, that's what I'm passionate about and have been for my whole career is looking after and preserving assets. We still need a human at that point, right? The whole enabling AI in this is to enrich it, is to make it better, to make it more usable, and we have to be powering that, and we're kind of masters of our own destiny at the moment, and we need
you're in control, but agentic AI will support you in managing the proliferation of this.
Exactly, yeah. Make it support your business, rather than thinking that it has to dictate it.
I know when we were preparing for today, you guys had a lot to say about including a wide variety of people in the testing, right? And not just keeping it to maybe, like you said, IT or IT leadership, or even leaders on your DAM team, and then saying, hey, here's your solution, go work with it, right? It's including a wide variety of people in the testing phase. So can you expand on that a little bit?
Yeah, we want to move away from change management. Like that expression has to go. I think change advocacy is what we need to be promoting now. Let's bring everybody into this conversation. I think that's the only way that you're going to get people comfortable and working in this technology, because there's too much fear around what it's going to change in the future. Exactly what we're talking about now, conventional DAM versus DAM and AI. Bring everyone along. You can't create stuff unless you have the people that are going to use it along for the journey with you. So make them feel part of it, listen to them, and get them building at their own pace.
Don't fall in love with technology and just do cool stuff because tech allows you to do cool stuff, right? It might be nice for a little demo, but is that really your value? I think everything that we do needs to be driven by the insight of value and how does it support what we're trying to do. On the other side of the spectrum is the lift and shift. Don't fall into the trap of just taking, and we did this when we all went from on-premise, the server rooms, into data centers and clouds, right? So we just lifted and shifted our Exchange server into the cloud. It was still the same service. It just had a different location. Let's not do that again. Let's look really at how can we find new ways? How can this new technology help us to find new ways to connect new dots, to really dream about it, right? And then figure out a way to get there versus just saying like, okay, we take a traditional process and then have an agent replace what the humans have been doing. That will not be successful. That will not help you, and in the end, it will not drive value. Right? What drives value is that you still have people who are in the control of this, who are still able to set the direction for this. And that's the same thing, Mary, that we talk about the agentic ideation, right? It's not to replace creatives, it's to
Right.
it's to help them with mundane problems in order to free up their time, in order to make them to give them feedback when it's needed at the right point. And I think that's the same for any process that we can do with AI. Don't just lift and shift it, and don't do tech because it's cool. Do it because it drives value.
Yeah. And that again kind of comes back to, starting with the problems, right? What problems are you trying to solve? And I know, Stuart, you mentioned this is early days. And one thing we talked about was don't be afraid to fail, because there's going to be some failure, right? When you're
I love that. You know what
putting
fail
your
stands for,
solution-
right?
What?
Sorry. Fail stands for first attempt in learning.
I've never heard that. I like that. Yeah. So don't be afraid of failure, because it's going to happen, right?
Oh, it'll be a lot of fail in this space. It's really about getting in there and then tweaking it and tweaking it and tweaking it, tweaking your prompts, like figuring out how that works. And I think also just another thing to think about that we've been talking about recently is we create metadata at the moment for humans, right? Do we need to be thinking about how we create metadata for the machine? Because that's the one that's the thing that's going to be doing the heavy lift for us. So I don't necessarily have the answer to how we will do that, but I think that's what we probably need to start thinking about. Sort of conventional metadata in itself is probably going to disappear. And how do we prepare ourselves in the DAM community to be able to deliver that in order to get real value out of our dams moving forward, but also to evolve as well, because that's the key point, I think, of this whole webinar is how is DAM evolving? And we all have a piece to play in that, right? As specialists in this field.
Well, let's get our closing thoughts. I thought it could be fun to open up for a big question, right? Before we get to the questions, which is, I'd love to hear from both of you. What's next for DAM? What does tomorrow look like?
Yeah, we had some good exchange about this in the past.
Yeah.
Stuart, you want to give it a stab?
I'll give it a stab, yeah. Well, I guess the first thing I want for the future of DAM is I want to say is that I want it to be the center of our business's ecosystem, right? I think that's what we all want for the world that we work in. But the future of DAM in itself, I'd say absolutely no more manually filling out metadata. That just has to go away. I think I've had enough of it. I'm sure everybody else has. Like, that piece needs to be automated, and I think that will be the first thing that comes. I think we also need to think about just how much content we might be looking after in 5, 10, 20 years' time. I've seen it's more assets year on year, and it has been for a long time now. So we have to be prepared to evolve and use AI at the center of that, I think, to accommodate that. In terms of like what would be amazing is, I guess we'd have to talk about the autonomous content generation piece as well with the assets that we have. Can we create content from the assets we make that we currently have in our library? Like hyper personalization, filming something and then turning it into lots of different versions using AI. Can the DAM drive that? The brand intelligence and compliance piece all being automated around your DAM. And I don't think that's a million miles away. I think there'll be lots of people on this call are probably working in that kind of space now. And I think things like rights management that have always been really complex, I'd love to see in a future DAM where that piece is just solved. Like, what content you can use, what you can't use, what you need to go and negotiate to use again. But I want that instant. I want to ask that agent within my DAM, find me that asset, tell me about the measurement, tell me about the rights management. And I want that straight back to me so I can action off it, and all of our users and our team can action off it. And DAM becomes that Like, a number of times I've said when I've been trying to sell a DAM into leadership is like, it's the single source of truth of everything. How about we think about it actually being able to deliver that statement across everything? Our assets there with all that enriched metadata sitting next to it. I think that's when we're saying it's the single source of truth. We are not fabricating that in any way at all. That is what we're delivering it. Steph's got some cool ones, I think. So you go.
Yeah. I feel we need a new name for the child. I don't think DAM is what it is anymore, because DAM is the main. It's all the power of the backend, but DAM is really what people use to manage the front end, the UI. You know, the way that assets are being uploaded, managed, viewed. I think all of this is going away. I think we will be seeing more and more that the content of the object store, with the underlying intelligence and the smart tagging and the original, all of that will be resurfaced in applications across the ecosystem, right? And for example, as you say, like, hey, the agent you want to talk to, that might be part of a contract database, right? That then is able to refer to content that lives in the DAM, but also maybe to stuff that lives in another database, and it's combining the two together. I think the agents supporting us in managing the content is the next piece to this. The whole management part will not go away, but it will come to another level. The management will be done by the agents, right? And it will be not so much people having to control the metadata, because we will be in a position where we can make sure that somebody's taking care of it. Stuart, you hinted at the direction that the metadata itself might be something that will be dynamically created, generated, controlled by a process. As new streams of content come in, as new natures of content come in, it will infer what the best taxonomy for that will be in order to make it manageable and be able to surface that. So I think the traditional DAM as a front end will evolve into something where we need a new name. I don't have that name yet, but I promise I will be thinking about it. But the core and essence of DAM as an object store that is highly scalable, that is very powerful, and that can be integrated into your ecosystem will prevail. But we will see that more and more agentic platforms will be integrating the object store in that fashion, rather than saying like it's an isolated product with an isolated feature of specific AI features. I think it will be more agentic platforms using what used to be the DAM, which is now the object store, and resurfacing that in a either conversational interface or within specifically designed simplistic interfaces for teams, which have, I don't know, 5 buttons to do something very specific, very focused.
And we're always talking about integrations into the DAM. Can we integrate this into our DAM? Can we integrate this? I think the future is more that it will be the agents doing that lift as well. So we may negate the need to have all of those integrations, because we'll be doing a lot of that work agentically, right?
And the agents will make the connections, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well,
that's what we said, wasn't it? Smart DAM. That was the best we could come up with. But there's a term coming somewhere.
Something is cooking, right? I can feel it. Yeah.
Well, guys, thank you so much. And I know we've had some questions come in, so I'm going to stop sharing and jump in and look at some of those questions. So, are you seeing more semantic search or RAG integration? Steph, I'm going to throw that to you, and I'd also ask you to please define RAG, if you could, for everyone here.
Sure. RAG is a new way of indexing content. It stands for Retrieval Augmented Generation. It is the way that LLMs understand context. It's the way that you upload a piece of text, for example, and you provide it to an LLM to work with. It is basically a search into an index. But what semantic does, it's based on similarities. which allows us to, for example, go by similarities of word families. So you're looking for French fries, but it will also find the potato wedges. Or you're looking for shoe, it will not just find this one term shoe, it will also find sneakers and boots and whatever is within that word family. That's the power of the LLMs. So what RAG does, it is encoding documents that you upload into a RAG repository. It is encoding them into tokens that can then be processed by these LLMs. That's technically what it does. How do we see it being applied? It is, of course, RAG is for text, and RAG exists also for images. We see it with our customers and clients using, for example, similarity search, where you would upload an image and find something, a similar image that you might already have in your licensed pool of available images that you can reuse. You find something on the internet, you want to find out, oh, maybe we have something like that. That's one application. Another one might be where you want to enrich your assets with a certain vocabulary, right? Where you want to map it to an existing piece. You might be using semantic for that. So the use cases are great, but there's also, be a little bit careful. Semantic search and embedding is not the solution for everything. There are technical limitations, around 50, 100,000 documents. Everything sort of starts becoming the same and similar. So only semantics is not the solution. That's why at Vertesia, we are doing what is called hybrid search and agentic search, which is using a number of different search methodologies in order to provide to you what you're looking for.
Definitely. Well, thank you so much, Steph and Stuart. It was a great conversation.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.